Coming up today, Korea and Japan have narrowed their differences over Tokyo's push to win UNESCO recognition for facilities that use Korean slave labourers during the early to mid-20th century. In a sudden change of heart, the leaders of Korea and Japan decide to attend events this Monday to mark the 50th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Plus, ahead of a crunchy EU summit in Brussels, Greece's Prime Minister reveals new debt deal proposals to European leaders. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, June 22nd here in Seoul. Thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this morning, Korea and Japan have managed to forge a long-sought agreement over disputes regarding Tokyo's push to win UNESCO recognition for its industrial facilities, which Seoul has strongly opposed. Seoul's Foreign Minister Byungse held a press conference after a 3-hour meeting with his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida in Tokyo on Sunday. According to Yoon, the two sides narrowed their differences and agreed to share the common perception to resolve the issue smoothly through consultations with each other as responsible members of the World Heritage Committee. Now, Yoon's remarks are being seen as an indication that Japan will accept Korea's call to clearly state the historical background about some of the sites where many Koreans were forced to work as slave labourers during the colonial era. Senior diplomats from the two sides are expected to meet soon for follow-up discussions and release more details about their agreements. The World Heritage Committee is scheduled to review whether to approve Japan's bid to enlist its wartime facilities as UNESCO World Heritage Sites when they convene a session in Germany starting from June 28th. Now, on top of talks about Japan's UNESCO bid, Korea's Foreign Minister Byungse also held talks with his Japanese counterpart about other historical issues between the two countries. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Foreign Minister Byungse's two-day visit to Tokyo comes on the eve of the 50th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic ties between Korea and Japan. He and Japanese Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida met on Sunday to exchange views on their bilateral relations, as well as North Korea and matters of regional security. But topping their agenda was the issue of Japan's sexual enslavement of tens of thousands of Korean women for its imperial army, before and during World War II. Last week, President Park Geun-hye addressed this long-running sensitive matter while speaking to the Washington Post. She said that both countries have made considerable progress in negotiations on a formal apology from Japan and reparations for its wartime wrongdoings, adding that they are in the final stages of talks. Yoon is next scheduled to pay a visit to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on Monday and possibly deliver a personal message from President Park. Meanwhile, Abe's own special envoy Fukushiro Nukaga will attend the 50th anniversary ceremony at the Japanese embassy in Seoul. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, as we just heard in that last report, diplomatic celebrations will be held in Seoul and Tokyo on this Monday to mark the 50th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic ties between the two countries. And in a last-minute surprise move, the leaders of the two countries are said to be attending events hosted by each other's embassies. Korea's presidential office of Cheongwadae said Sunday in a press release that President Park Geun-hye will attend the Japanese embassy's reception in Seoul, where she plans to deliver a speech. The presidential office also confirmed that Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will make his appearance at a similar ceremony hosted by the Korean embassy in Tokyo. The two leaders initially decided to have their congratulatory messages read out by their envoys at the ceremonies. Experts say their decision to personally attend the events could reflect their resolve to improve bilateral ties that have long been strained over Japan's past wrongdoings. Now, going nearly 2 months without any significant rainfall, Gangwon-do Island, located in Korea's northwest, has been hardest hit by the drought affecting the entire country. President Park visited the area on Sunday. She went around local farms and a reservoir under emergency supplies. She also called on civilians, the military and the government to cooperate and find ways to overcome the drought. She also asked for measures to be drawn up to handle the effects of climate change and unusual weather, which have been occurring more and more frequently in recent years. The government funneled in more than $38 million to provide emergency support and water to drought-stricken regions. And President Park has tapped the chief prosecutor of the Seoul High Prosecutor's Office as the new Justice Minister. The presidential office says Kim Hyung-eung's administrative and judicial experience as a prosecutor and leadership are expected to help the nominee lead the government's campaign to root out corruption in Korean society. Now, it is interesting to note that the nominee is junior to Prosecutor General Kim Jin-tae. That's seen as unusual, given that the Justice Minister is in a position to give orders to the Prosecutor General. The minister nominee will need to go through a parliamentary hearing before he is officially appointed. 3 new cases of the MERS virus were confirmed in Korea on Sunday, bringing the total number of infections to 169 now. No more deaths have been confirmed since Saturday. Connie Kim reports.
2 of 3 new MERS cases confirmed on Sunday were medical workers who had close contact with infected patients. The health ministry said one was an X-ray technician, while the other was a treating doctor. The third person diagnosed today had visited the same emergency room that treated another MERS patient earlier this month. Although the daily number of new cases has steadily declined over the past week, health officials still have major concerns. 2 of the infections were from Samsung Medical Center and Kyunghee University Hospital in Gangdong, hospitals which the government has been closely working with to contain the disease. The other confirmed case was from Konkuk University Medical Center, one of the 7 hospitals health officials labeled as a facility where the virus was under control. These additional cases bring the total tally of infected patients to 169. More than 4,000 people still remain under quarantine. And since the first outbreak was reported on May 20th, 25 people have died, while 43 have made full recoveries. Amid this, authorities have begun discussing the criteria to call an end to this outbreak. The health ministry said last week that in order to say the disease has finally stopped spreading, there would have to be no new MERS cases for 28 days, which is twice the incubation period of the virus. As for a more positive take on this ongoing battle, 2/3 of the MERS patients that were exposed at Pyeongtaek St. Mary's Hospital, where the country's first MERS patient was confirmed, have fully recovered and returned home. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, in order for Korea to reach its projected 3% growth rate this year, it's going to need a supplementary budget of at least $20 billion. That's according to a report released on Sunday by the Seoul-based Hyundai Research Institute. It cited fallout from last April's Seoul ferry disaster and sputtering exports as reasons for the slow economic recovery. But the situation is expected to worsen as the current MERS outbreak continues. The think tank said, however, that extra government cash should help the economy back onto the right track. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan says he will decide on whether to draw up an extra budget by the end of this month. Now, last Friday, it was made official. Gori-1, Korea's oldest nuclear reactor, will be shut down. Now, that decision didn't come easy, however, with the reactor having received the green light to keep going for 2 more years. But Korea is now focusing on the next phase, which is its permanent closure. Cooling down and dismantling the reactor is expected to take more than 15 years. The government will set aside around $135 million for the research and development of 17 key dismantling technologies necessary for the process. The Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning will spearhead this project, with 2021 set as the deadline for its complete decommissioning. With the clock ticking before a crucial summit which could have huge implications for Europe, Greece's Prime Minister has made a new offer on reforms that could signal a late deal in the country's debt talks with its international creditors. A statement from the office of Alexis Tsipras says he gave European leaders a proposal for what he called a mutually beneficial agreement that will give a definitive solution and not a postponement of addressing the key problem. Since his office didn't elaborate, though, it's unclear what concessions have been included in the Prime Minister's proposals. Now, these proposals, which are being looked over by EU and IMF creditors as we speak, come ahead of this emergency EU summit in Brussels on Monday. Greece has until June 30th to make a $1.8 billion loan repayment to the IMF or risk crashing out of the Eurozone and possibly even the EU. The names of the 9 people murdered at an African-American church in South Carolina have been read out in a service as the church where the brutal shooting took place reopened on Sunday. There was tight security as hundreds of people crammed into the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston for the service on Sunday morning local time. Now, one of the pastors giving a speech at the ceremony said the songs and speeches were the sound of forgiveness in a place visited by hatred. Meanwhile, a racist manifesto believed to have been written by the alleged killer, 21-year-old Dylan Roof, has been discovered online. The website, which as you can see shows a number of photos of the suspect, contains several racist rants outlining his hatred towards black people, Jews and Latin Americans. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights will open a new branch in Seoul on Tuesday to better monitor the situation in North Korea. The office is expected to take on the role of connecting human rights civic groups in the north with the international community under the UN. The new Seoul office opened Twitter and Facebook pages last week and began communicating with the public both in and outside of the country. However, when the office officially opens, relations between the two Koreas are expected to worsen. Late last month, North Korea said it will mercilessly punish Seoul over the opening of the UN office. The tussle over workers' wages at the Inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex continues to rumble on, with North Korea still expecting the pay hike they demanded earlier this year, and South Korea continuing to reject it. North Korea demanded Seoul raise its workers' wages to $74 a month, up from the $70.35 it is currently at. The nearly 5.2% hike violates what was initially agreed upon, which is a maximum 5% hike from the previous year's amount. With little progress in talks to settle the dispute, North Korean workers have been receiving their previous pay amount for 3 months now, as the complex is seen as a bellwether on the state of inter-Korean ties. Watchers say it's unlikely we'll see positive developments in other areas of cooperation until this matter is settled. Now, you might have seen robots in science fiction movies that imitate human movements in real time. Well, now, a group of researchers here in Korea have developed a system which makes that possible, and this narrows the gap between virtual space and the real world. Our Park Se-young has the story.
When you wave your hand in the air, the screen moves with it. Clenching and releasing your fist lets you zoom in and out of maps, and a robotic arm imitates your movements in real time. This may sound like a scene out of a science fiction movie, but it's become reality thanks to this device that resembles an armband. A group of scientists from the Korea Institute of Science and Technology created a surface EMG system that detects movements of the hand and fingers through the forearm muscles. Muscles contract before moving. The new system sensors predict those movements in advance using the electric signals of the muscles. The system's inertial sensors track the arm's motion, making it possible for the user to operate the robotic arm in real time.
Assessing the intentions of the movement too late causes a delay, which is problematic when trying to detect signals in real time. The new technology processes the action beforehand through the electric signals.
The technology, which was introduced earlier this month, can also be applied to the shoulder and legs by detecting signals from other parts of the body. The research team plans to commercialize the system later this year to target the healthcare and office equipment industry. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
And that's all we have on this Monday morning from Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. Have a great day and a wonderful rest of the week. And thank you, as always, for watching. And we hope you can join us at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.